What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Wisdom Wednesday. What's going on, y'all? Today I have a really cool treat for you. The energy that we getting ready to have a conversation with, the journey we're going to get into. I'm actually really curious myself to get into this young lady's journey because I don't know a lot about her journey into entrepreneurship. I do know, however, that she left corporate America, and I love her content on her page and how much she shares motivation on how you guys can do the same. She built an e-commerce business. She's building a brand. She's building a movement. And so we can get a little bit of wisdom from her and her journey as we plan for our own, right? So let's get into the conversation. Let me bring her in. Come on in, sis. Come on in. Hello, turn up the story. What's up? Ooh,
Hey,
gang, gang. What's up?
nothing much. Living my dream.
How, living? Come on, bring it in. Bring it in with the good energy.
Yeah,
You are you
I
there?
like to say that all the time. Yeah, yeah. Can you hear
I
me?
love it. Yes, I can hear you. Everything's good. It clocked out for just a moment, but I think you're good. Real
Okay.
quick
Yeah,
test.
it's
If
a little
everybody
windy over
in the
here.
chat, if they go ahead.
Oh, can you
Might
hear
be
me?
breaking up just a little bit.
All right.
Let's see. Let's see. It might be clocking out. It might be clocking out. It looks like she's outside. If you can hear me, it looks like you're outside. Sometimes the Wi-Fi, Lord, between the Wi-Fi, with everybody being in Corona and us all having to use our Wi-Fi or the cellular networks, sometimes lives can be a challenge. Let's see if she can clock in. If the video comes through. Let's see. Okay, she just dropped off. Let's see if we can get her back. Let's see. I'll do this again.
All right.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
It's
And
better
it's
now.
clear too. Yes. It's better
Okay.
and
I
it's
was gonna.
clear.
All right. I was gonna move, but all right. All right. Cool. Cool.
Nah, we good. We good. Stay right where you. I don't know if this is a comfortable position for you,
You all right?
but stay
Don't
there.
move. Don't move. I got you.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
We
All
good.
right.
We
Well, I'm
good.
happy to have you on here. One, I really have enjoyed like just kind of getting to know your story and looking into your content since we've connected. And what I was telling everybody before you joined is one thing I do know is that you left corporate. And I also know you're building your
Yes.
journey, you're inspiring people, and you telling your story, I'm sure inspires other people to start their business, whether it be their brand, their e-commerce business, whatever it is. So I would love for you first to kind of introduce yourself. How do you introduce yourself? Hold on, wait a minute. How do you introduce yourself to the folks? Of all, first and foremost, before we get into this.
Yeah, so I'm Jack. You can also call me Jackie, Jacqueline. It really doesn't matter. People around me call me Jack, Jack the God. I'm a creative director. I've been doing that since high school. So I was in a magnet program where I learned how to do graphic design and whatnot, and I just kept that going. Was a creative director, worked my way up corporate, and now I also have a clothing brand called My Hustle Has Purpose.
Dope. I love how you just like boom, hit the high points. I get so long winded, like, but you really like hit the high points. But tell me, what does a creative director do?
Creative director. So in the industry I work in is design and marketing. So what I do is I oversee basically design projects. So design in the aspect of flyer design, banner design. I have designed high level booths for aerospace companies as far as how it looks. Um,
Oh.
I've designed websites. And I've actually been the leader on these projects. So when you're a creative director, you're the brains behind it. You're coming up with the concepts, the marketing scheme, the adding that extra touch. So there was one client that I did a banner for, and their slogan was connecting the pieces. So instead of just saying something connecting the pieces and throwing that on a banner, I came up with an idea to make it look like puzzle pieces and throwing that into an entire marketing scheme.
So you're the brains behind like the entire creative journey that you want someone to go through. But did I catch that right? You said you did the mock-ups for like boots, like high-tech boots?
Yeah, so I've created two maybe two or three, four booths. I can't remember
Boots.
now, but yeah. So like when you go to these big conventions, there's a
Hmm.
convention in particular called the MRO convention that a lot of aviation people go to. So MRO is manufacturing, repair, overhaul. I actually created and designed three or four of those booths from certain companies.
I got you. Okay, so I'm there. I'm there. So at first I thought you said
Yeah.
boots. I started thinking NASA, but I was like, no, she said air force, like air. So I was like, okay, so I'm trying to put everything together. So that makes sense. And you said you went to a magnet school. So I went to a magnet school as well. Did you go for the magnet school like for smart folks? Like what was it that made you choose your school growing up? Or was it like, nah, this is just in my district?
Yeah, so no, so actually when I was in and a lot of people don't know this actually. When I was in first grade, I found myself school was super easy. So I kept like I had to beg my mom. I was like, "Mom, I'm not supposed to be in this class. I think I'm gifted." And my mom kind of laughed, brushed it aside, and was like, "No, like if you are gifted, they will let you know, honey." Um, and it's funny because she actually just told somebody else a story like a couple days ago, and she was like, so I kept bothering her. I kept bothering her. Eventually, she told the school, she was like, you need to test her for gifted, because she won't leave me alone. So come to find out, I was gifted. So I ended up joining the gifted program really early in elementary school, and then that brought me into a magnet program there where I actually learned how to play the violin, and I was into art. So I did those two things. So I was in magnet programs my entire life. In middle school, I went to a magnet school for science, and then in high school, I went to a magnet school for broadcasting and arts.
Dope. So while a lot of us out here went through that awkward, fugly phase, you out here telling your mom, "Listen, I'm special. They missing something over here, mama." So what was it about you? Like, what did you do? What did you notice in yourself or in your surroundings that said, "Hey, no, I'm different. I'm special."
Honestly, the questions other kids or my peers wwere asking, I was like,
Ooh.
this question is very easy. I don't understand why people are asking this question. It to me it would seem like it was a dumb question, but I realized there was multiple people around me asking that same question. So I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to be here. I obviously know something they don't.
Wow. I think that's really actually amazing because a lot of times I'm listening to you and I'm letting your inner child speak to my inner child right now. Because when I was growing up, there were things about me that I felt like I'm just way ahead. But instead of me taking that and being like, hey, well, I'm gifted or owning it, because that's what you did as a child.
Yeah.
I believe I was more so feeling like I was a nuisance. Like, dang, I'm always the one who wants to answer questions. I'm always the one who I'm the person that like, oh, anybody besides Ariel? Anybody else got an answer or like whatever? And I think it's really dope that, one, you stood up for yourself and you told your mom, hey, I think I'm special. I think I should be tested for tag. And then she actually took heed. But then your trajectory from that point on continues to become like a gifted, student. So going into music and testing out your skills is literally how you got your foundation. So that's actually really
Yes.
dope. And I'm sure that's going to lead into your journey into corporate. But before we go into that, in your high school journey, like what was it? What experience do you feel like you resonated with most? But what were some of the other things that you tried?
So in high school, I was an athlete. So I played basketball. I was one of the best basketball players in the county. I made
Oh,
all state in the flag football twice. And I was really known for sports actually. Although I was in Magnet, I kind of kept it low key. But what took me, I would say what made the most impact on what I'm doing now is actually I was the editor in chief of the yearbook, and I was in the newspaper program through that magnet program, and those skills actually helped me on my journey to corporate.
okay. You got to tell us more. So, and on Wisdom Wednesday specifically, I do like to focus on that transition, like
Of
what gave you
course.
the courage to leave. But I really think this is actually pretty dope. One, you finding your skills and being able to explore at such a young age. And then, however that took you into corporate, what did that inform you about? And like, how did you know, like, I'm going to go into corporate America?
For sure, for sure. Um, I would say, as far as, I guess, I'm sorry. So I don't know if I should answer the question first as if what made me bring that into corporate or maybe go back into
Yeah,
corporate.
let's go
Okay.
with let's because you said let's just go with what your thought was because you said that actually is why I went into corporate. So let's bridge that gap.
Okay, yeah, of course. So, even going back further, one of my goals in life, and I have things still written down from when I was younger in elementary school. That would be like, oh, I was going to go to college, and I would get a job making X amount of money, blah blah blah. So in high school, it came down to my senior year, and my coach pulled me aside and was like, "Listen, I need to know one thing. Are you trying to play college basketball?" And so that was a serious question because that's going to mark the next 4 years of my life and what I'm doing year round. So honestly, I looked it up. I realized that NBA, WNBA players don't make that much money. So why would I continue on focusing so much of my energy and my life into basketball when they're not making that much money? So I was like, no. So that thought process alone was like, okay, well, if I'm not gonna be a basketball player, where am I
Hmm.
going to go? And I realized how much graphic designers make. And so I felt that even if I had another job, if I learned graphic design, I could always do it on the side and make money. So whatever my salary was, I could always increase that salary by having that kind of side hustle. So that was my
Got
thought
you.
process on choosing that field. So eventually I got my associates in graphic design. Um, got a job in the industry that same day I graduated. Um, quit that job because it was just a low level job, and I wanted to work my way up. So I was trying to get experience. I'm from Broward County, Florida, so that's not a very like high come area in Florida. So when it came down to I was getting older and I wanted to make more money, I started looking for jobs in the next county, which is West Palm Beach, and they have they're more upper class people, and I felt like if there's upper class people there, there's upper class jobs there. So
Mm.
I used my skills from being a editor in chief in news in yearbook, as well as my graphic design skills to land this job at this aerospace company in corporate.
Okay, so we're bridging the gap between your graphic design skills, and it really was a logical decision. It was like, yeah, I like basketball, but if we're talking about future here and long-term strategy, which is not a lot of people think about it, it's like, okay, so how can I level up in this skill set that's going to keep me going and make me secure? It's like you made a more of a stable decision, which a lot of people might have gone passion or like, yeah, let me go WNBA or even overseas because I know that's another option. You decided to go the more secure route and also
Mhm.
strategically thinking about how could I get another stream of income outside of it. So I'm curious to know how that panned out. Um, but you just introduced something really like interesting. It's like you said you were like the county that you grew up in is not as affluent, so knew you needed to put yourself in another environment, right? So you
Yes.
put yourself in another environment. You go to Palm Beach, you go into corporate, and what was that experience like for you? Because you are a very confident individual, but you're in a different, like a whole different environment with different people, different thoughts. So, like, what was that like?
Yeah, so and it's funny that you asked me this because I don't talk about this too often. So one, it's making a sacrifice every day to drive an hour there and an hour back for that extra income. And again, like you said, I'm in a totally different environment. So when I first landed the job, my hair was still longer. I would dress more feminine just because of the way that people might perceive me, and I was fearful that I might not land a job. And then as I proved myself more, I became more into myself there. But
Yeah.
I just saw so much. That my peers that I was working with, my colleagues, they all came from money, which I didn't. Their I guess everything was just a little bit different. They didn't need the job in the same way I did, and they didn't work in the same way I did because of that. So their work ethic actually lacked because of that.
Dang.
Um, yeah.
You gotta tell us more. You gotta run them off, Jack. You got to.
So I think an eye opener for me was going to one my first MRO show. So again, this is the biggest show of the year, and in the aviation industry, it's 95% white white people. and of those people, most of them are males.
Okay.
So going there, meeting these people, talking to these people, going to these parties, these upscale parties where they're having violinists and everybody's dressed up, it's a suit and tie affair, and
Yeah.
having these like higher level conversations and seeing that this is norm, this is their norm. They're doing
Yeah.
these things regularly. They actually rented out the Georgia Aquarium for an event. Like
Mm.
very special high level. I was like, wow, like if I making six figures, I'm never gonna be able to like live like this. So if my boss can't pay me to live next to her, like what am I doing?
Facts. Okay, I'm with you. As you're talking, I started thinking about the book that we're reading in the morning meetup, the We Should All Be Millionaires.
Yes.
And this last section that we read where she's going through one like how women who are obese get less money, and then the people of the LGBTQ community and how that is played out in the workplace. And as you were talking, as I was reading it, actually, I was thinking about how many people go into corporate environments because of the stability and the job security and even the career opportunities, but they have to muddle themselves. You know what I mean? Like, you know, an obese person can't necessarily hide their obesity, but
Yeah.
a person who's experiencing their identity and understanding who they are as a person, like you mentioned, you have to like keep your hair long or show up in a way that you don't necessarily feel is authentic. So for you, was that a huge, or how much would you say you being able to show your identity in the workplace, like the hair and everything that you mentioned, how much would you say that played a part in your experience in corporate and then your decision to like leave?
I think it played it was a big part of just my life there because for about a year I wasn't myself there. They didn't know me. They didn't know who I really was. Like,
Mm.
again, like I would have my hair straight, long, straightened. Like I'm not even a feminine person naturally. Um, I wouldn't talk too much about my personal life, and I just felt like I always wanted to be somewhere where I didn't have to worry about how the next person looks at me, or anything like that. And as I started to transition out, I started to become more myself, because I just didn't care. At least there, like outside of work, I'm still gonna be myself. I'm kind of like that that reel, if you've ever seen, where sometimes the dude will get in the car with his suit and he'll take it off and be like, after my 9 to 5, and putting on his
Yes.
do rag. Like that's me.
Yes.
Turning up my
Yeah.
music, like it's another level. So I
Yeah.
felt like, that was really me. And so as I started the day I decided, well, I'm not gonna be here forever, I started coming into myself more. So I had proved myself as far as work ethic to the point where I was a really big asset. And so little by little, I would start dressing how I wanted to dress. I cut my hair back again fully. I dyed my hair because I'm like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Are you gonna fire me?
Yeah.
Like, and
Like
I feel like
what do
that
you
was
have to lose,
major.
right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
But how did
But
that
now it's
change
just
affect
great.
you though? Like a
I'm
lot of
sorry,
times,
how did
so
that
the reason
what?
I ask is, as how did that affect you? Because the reason I ask is, you mentioned like the experience of your job, right? So these big galas, like going to the office, not necessarily showing up as yourself, but then something that you decided, you know what, I'm gonna start being me. But the reason that you weren't being me was because maybe you felt like they weren't gonna accept you. So what was their reaction as you started to be more of yourself? What was that like? Whether it was a transformation internally or
So a little bit of both. There was a little bit of taken back, I guess would be the word, that
mm,
they were like a little bit taken back. And I feel like in one aspect they accepted me because it was already to the point where they knew how smart I was. They couldn't really judge me in one aspect. But then there was still small comments like being made, or I even had a colleague text me before the holiday dinner and was like, just so you know, they're probably gonna talk about your hair, and I'm like, I don't care.
mm,
Like, like
mm.
things like that.
I got you. So, in your opinion, what have you, well, not even opinion, because when I'm thinking about the book and I'm thinking about workplaces changing, right? Um, One, I think about, okay, if they're not going to accept me, then or I honestly, sometimes I think, why would I want to go into corporate America where I know that I'm going to be like, I'm going to be faced with some of these issues, but I feel like there's a logical reason, there's a strategic reason why you might want to go into corporate and get that experience. But then I think about the person who's like, no, I'm going to go into corporate and I'm going to change the face of, of the workplace. And I think about what that transformation actually looks like. So for you, when you think about like the, comments that you have to go through and just having to go show up for work, what have you learned in terms of the process now that you've kind of come into yourself? What have you learned about that experience, whether it's like, you know, don't do it, or, this is how you do it? What have you learned
Yeah,
about
I
that
mean,
experience?
I would say, each person has to have self-awareness. So you have to know that if you're going into a place where you're not going to be widely accepted, you have to have thick skin. I mean, I guess you don't have to have thick skin, but if you're not, it's going to be very emotional for you. And you've got to either, have a really high prayer life or be prepared to, just expect certain things emotionally that you're going to need to be able to let out. I don't recommend it personally, but I think the only way to change that is by being the change. And so I try to be the change, and I want to open up companies that where I'm able to hire people of all kind, I guess.
My bad, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that.
Oh,
It was
I was
getting
like,
so
I
good.
thought that was me. I'm moving.
No, that's not true. No, and Lady
Okay.
Ty said yes. You got to be prepared to brace yourself, because what you said is, one, you have decided that I'm going to be the change, and I'm going to go out there and create a safe space for other people who can feel comfortable and work with a clear head, so that they don't have to worry about like all these external pressures about how they look and how they talk and how they identify.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned like you have to have that thick skin, and that's what Lady Ty was saying. Like, you got to be prepared. I'm trying to understand, and this is not a question for real. I'm really like thinking about, I'm spitballing with you, and I'm thinking about like that thick skin comment. I remember somebody told me, I used to work at an airline. So you remember we talked about like the kind of like the alignment with airlines. One of the things that my coworker said, I was like, I hate standby travel, right? This doesn't have anything to do with identity. It's just I just don't like standby travel. And she was like, you can't be faint of heart. Standby travel is not for the faint of heart, right? Or the comment of like
Mhm.
having thick skin and being able to deal with people who want to touch your hair and say, oh, you have braids today, or you have like long hair today, or, like you grew, like whatever it is, the comments you have to like protect yourself around it. So on this topic of like bracing yourself, we both decided to leave, right? But when it comes to like corporate as a necessary evil, and those who decide that they want to stay, have to have that thick skin. What do you feel about like, this is an opinion we brainstorming, but I'm curious about your thought
Yeah.
about people who decide they want to go into corporate and having to have that thick skin. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, for sure. I actually kind of said something like this in my story the other day, that like you definitely have to have not only thick skin, but you have to be strong-willed. You have to have self-discipline if you are going to go into corporate. And I don't recommend anybody who doesn't have self-discipline to go into it at all. Like Elon Musk said something about like, oh, if you need words of encouragement, you shouldn't own your own business. And I believe that to be true. If you still like need certain levels of accountability, you shouldn't go into
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship um, because at the end of the day, you are your own boss. You've got to be able to get out there on your own, and you've got to be able to do it, whether you're making money today or whether you're not.
Facts. So
Some people don't even want to work for $12, and then they think they want to go into entrepreneurship. If you couldn't even work for your boss for that little $12, you're not going to go do it for yourself.
facts. So let's talk about the thick skin that we need to have as entrepreneurs. Like when I as you talk, I'm thinking about like, if I were to go back to that situation and someone tell me about faint of heart, you'd be like, yo, the level of thick skin that you have to have as an entrepreneur out here getting it. by yourself is a whole different beast. So for you, what was your journey when you decided to leave? One, you started to come into yourself and your identity, but how did you decide you were going to leave, and how did you make that exit? Was it like a leap, or did you make an
For
exit
sure.
strategy? Yeah.
So I guess I had an exit strategy. So I knew I was not gonna be stay in corporate when I got this job. So I told them that I just am here for extra experience because there were certain things in design that I still needed to learn. As I did my market research, and I realized that other designers had skills I had not had at that point in life. I realized I needed to brush up on that. So I was looking for jobs, got the job, and I knew I would quit eventually. So I really put my exit strategy into place, I would say in 2019, early 2020.
Was that before you got the job? You said you didn't. You
That
knew
was
you
after
wanted
I
to
got
exit.
the job. After I got the job, I actually started putting an exit strategy into place.
Got you. And how long?
Yes.
How long had you had the job before you started thinking about your exit strategy?
Um, a couple of months. So
Got you.
I got maybe no, like yeah, it was like no, it was a year, a year. It was
Okay,
a
a
year
year
because
in, and you were like,
I did get comfortable for a little bit. I got comfortable for a little bit because I got my first raise. And I was like, oh, this is easy. But then I came back to myself.
right. It's the sweet security and that stability that pulls us away. We got to be like, hold on, wait a minute. I got a vision. I got a dream.
Hmm.
So can we go a little bit deeper into your exit strategy? Because I know there are people on here right now who are trying to decide what needs to go into my exit strategy. It's like I honestly I resonate with that. Like I didn't want the job when I had it. Oh, wait a minute. Before we get into the X strategy, you said that you told them that you were in it for the skill set. So was that a strategy in itself for you to say like, "Hey, I'm in it for the skills"? Because I know they might have asked you like, "Where do you want to be in the next 5 years?" Like, how did you know to say like,
Yeah,
how did
they
you say that?
did. Um, Honestly, I don't know. That's just something that I said. I was like, I also didn't want to give them the wrong impression because, some of these jobs, these higher level jobs, you have to sign contracts.
Yeah.
So, I didn't want to get into anything and I didn't want them to think that anything different of me. So I wanted them to know, like, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time.
Hey, and I'm glad it went over well. I think a lot of people are fearful that they have to keep that kind of stuff to themselves. And even, even some people may need to keep that information to themselves because they want to, they want to sell the dream. Like I'm going to be here for 10 years, and maybe they change their mind after 12 months. But I think it's really dope that you were transparent up front, and it also allows people to see like how it can be done even if you don't say, hey, I'm going to be leaving in the next 2 years, but you can just say, hey, these are the skill sets that I want to get, and this is how it aligns to my career. The last thing I want to say on that point is just that strategically, that's what companies need to hear in order to invest in you. So regardless of whether you don't want to be there from the jump, you still have to be able to communicate like why it is that you want the job. So I think that's important.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so about your exit strategy, you started putting it in a year. You started putting your exit strategy together a year in. So what were you like? I have to have this in order for me to leave.
So I wanted to have a certain amount of income. So like right now, I'm good for the year. If something happens to me, I should be good for this year. That's living at bare minimum. I had to
Okay.
know my threshold. How am I willing to live? Um, and I knew that there were certain things I wanted to have into place. So I launched my clothing brand and I launched certain things before I quit
Okay.
because
Got
I
you.
didn't want
So
to like deal with the launch after I quit because that's a whole nother process in itself.
yeah.
That would have just set me back, I guess, income wise.
So how long into your entrepreneurial journey are you?
Like working on my own or
Yeah. After the leap. When did you take your official leap?
my official leap was, well, I officially ended December 31st. Just happened. So I'm 2 weeks in, but I guess full time. Thank you. But
Let's
I
go.
actually quit in September. I think it was September. I quit in September, so I was supposed to be done. My boss actually like begged me to stay until the end of the year. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take this with grace and see what I can get out of it while I'm here. And so now I'm done. I'm done.
That's even a better position to be in for your boss to be like, "Hey, can you stay a little bit longer?" Because that means you've built the rapport and you've done a good job at that level, so that you it's kind of like giving you he's giving you his blessing internally to be like, "Hey, will you stay a little bit longer?" Because he could have been
Yeah.
like, "Hey, just
Well,
go ahead and pack up your bags."
well, I will say it might make a difference because well, I did have a female boss, so it was a woman who owned the company, and I just wanted to make that a keynote because that I do believe that that played a huge difference in my in part of my experience.
Tell me more. I agree, and I just realized subconsciously I've been saying he the whole time. So what do you believe gave you the benefit? Like, what was the benefit of you having a female boss?
She brought a lot of empathy. So it wasn't just business, business, business. She very much so cared. She very much so would listen to your emotions and all of that and in all aspects. So sick days, um, she's not like questioning you too much. She wanted you to take care of yourself. And I think that's something I've never seen before working under males. And that's that she
Mm.
owned this entire company. So I think just emotions played a difference in all of that.
What about trust? Because I don't know if I've ever had a female boss that I've actually trusted, and I've actually probably trusted more of the male bosses because I feel like they were so neutral to the point where they receive my emotions better. So like, how did y'all develop that level of trust where you could even confide in her emotionally?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would confide in her emotionally, but I'm a blunt person, so I kind of tell it how it is. So naturally, that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I think she started trusting me. I don't think I ever really trusted her completely. I just I knew her place in my life rather, but I know she trusted me a lot, and she still trusts me a lot as an employee because of how I positioned myself while I was working there. I always went
Mm-hmm.
above and beyond. During the pandemic, she our biggest client stopped paying her, and I helped her leverage other aspects of her company to bring in income.
I got you. So was she a small business owner, or well, what was the like work environment like, or was this like one client that she had? What was the setup like?
So originally, the setup was one client, which is Aviation Week, which is one of the biggest companies in the world. And she actually grew and molded the MRO trade show. So that's her show. She built that from. She's been in the industry for I want to say over 40 years now. So originally it was her that one company, and then we grew it, and now she has a bunch of companies that now she's contracting and doing work for.
Got you. So you were a part of helping her. She built her baby, and you were part of helping her continue to build that dream. So she's emotionally invested, and she's also you've built your credibility up enough that she respects you and
Hmm.
allows you to kind of explore your emotional ups and downs and your mental emotional health. So that makes sense. Okay. When you were
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
your exit strategy together, did you think about burning bridges at all, or were you just like, did it just so happen that you got lucky with this one?
I mean, we've had our ups and downs, and even towards the end, one of the we had an argument, and I was like, which it was really a meaningless argument, but because I had already been planning, like, oh, I was getting ready to put in my 2 weeks that she didn't know. Um, we were able to discuss it at that time, but I'm sorry, I lost my thought.
You were thinking about the argument that y'all had, and you said it wasn't
Yeah,
that
I
big of a deal.
know that negative argument just like made me lose my
Took
thought.
you all the way back. You started envisioning the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, but you said did I get oh, burning bridges. Okay, but no. So actually, I mean, I honestly, thank God for my mom. I think she just raised me to be a specific way, and I could have burned my bridges and I could have moved differently even
Yeah,
towards the end of working for her. But it was
yeah,
to the point where I literally am not releasing my website until this week just because out of respect for her. I just, I personally don't believe in burning bridges because you never know who somebody's going to be, or and if it's not that deep, there's no point.
yeah, facts. So, you're 2 weeks into your full-time entrepreneurial journey, and I know for a fact that it takes some processing, especially when you've identified as a corporate employee for so long. So I'm curious to know how you're processing, and specifically the identity piece, right? It's a whole nother transition of you not being an employee. The stability in your relationship with stability in corporate versus the stability that you want to have in entrepreneurship. But then also the type of work that you do on a daily basis. You're 2 weeks in, you're not gonna be like having the same meetings anymore, working on the same projects. So how are you processing all of these different variables that are gonna be changing now that you're making your transition?
Yeah, honestly, it's a lot of me coming together, and reminding myself that I don't work for somebody else anymore. And I was I was speaking with somebody earlier, and I was actually telling them I just had to get used to the fact that I don't have to sit at my desk from 9 to 5 anymore. Like I can go out. So I've been trying to incorporate like a midday bike ride, do that. A lot of my schedule really is the same though, because the last 2 weeks I was only on schedule, or the last month rather, I was only on the schedule in case she needed me for like random stuff. So I'm just getting used to her not needing me for no little random stuff. But I was luckily enough to, while working for her, to get used to building my own schedule. So I still do the same things. I'm still getting up at 5 in the morning. At 8, I join the morning meetup. When I get off of there, I review my emails. Like I still have the same structures, and I still have like clients on the side that I'm meeting with, and things like that. So a lot of my schedule really is the same. It's just a difference of somebody else not telling me what to do anymore.
Facts, facts. Now, what about the type of work that you do? Because I know you have the brand, and you said you're launching your website today. So, if you could delineate, so the work that you were doing before and the skill sets that were required in your old job or old life, and then the ones that you're taking ahead and the ones that you're not. What are you what how are your skill sets and the skill sets that are required to do what you do now? How are they changing?
So what I was doing was, again, creative direction. So I was doing a lot of design work, a lot of website work. I will still be taking that along. So I still am doing like projects as far as creating social media banners, print banners, brochures, websites. I do search engine optimization, and analysis in that aspect. So I still am taking that on, but at a lower level. So I'm doing it enough to pay the bills. My goal is to do it enough to pay the bills while I go ahead and scale my clothing brand. And so I have my systems for my clothing brand in place. I actually just ordered the next launch, the next drop yesterday, no, a couple of days ago. So that should be in next week, and then I'll have a photo shoot set for that. So my main focus is to scale my clothing brand, and then to scale my investments in trading, stuff like that.
Dope. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So one, you're leveling up the skill set that you built in corporate. So I think that's really important for us to take note of. If you're in a job right now and you want to do something different, it's different than you just taking the skill sets that you already have and building your business off of that. Two, structure. You having the structure, and then also you getting that leeway between September and December to kind of get a feel for what your life is going to look like when you quit. That's clutch. That's
Yeah.
real clutch.
It is. It is, because I don't have any anxiety. And I'm so grateful for that. That's something that I was like, I always wondered, like, would I have anxiety when my last day came? And I don't have any anxiety at all. It feels all normal. It feels like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking of anxiety, I feel like one of the things that keeps us on track, and one of the things that I feel like people should, if they know they want to go into entrepreneurship from corporate, because sometimes people don't know. But if you know you want to go into entrepreneurship, like knowing what your why is. So as you like always recalibrate and then even deal with some of the days that, um, or even prepare to deal with some of the days that might not be so good. Because I know you're 2 weeks in, but promise you, those days are gonna come. What would you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
your why is for going into business, and what are you building at a large scale? Like when you think about your 15, 20, 30-year goals, what is that thing that keeps you going?
My family and sorry, my phone was
Uh-oh.
on low. Um, my family, and just not wanting to be where I've been, or where I've watched my parents go. I think that's always kept me going, and I feel like that's why I've had such a drive from such a young age. And then during the pandemic, I realized that I had kidney disease that got bad for a while, and
Mm.
I had that moment of clarity where I'm like, if something were to happen to me, is this where I want my last place to be? Is this what I want to be known for? And no, so I really turned it up after that.
Facts. I'm so glad you shared that because I think for a lot of us who end up making the transition, who don't need that constant motivation or hand holding to make the transition, it was something that opened our eyes to help us understand how limited time is
Yeah,
and how valuable time is. So you sharing your experience with that, it really does put like nobody can tell you when you're ready. For you, it was partially your experience with, and I don't know, what did you said cancer, right?
I'm sorry. No, 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 kidney disease.
Kidney disease. My brain went to cancer, and I said, hold up, I don't feel like that's right. Um, because I'm thinking about somebody else's story. But when for you, it was kidney disease. For somebody else,
Mm,
it could be death, right? For
yeah,
somebody else, it could be something completely different. So I feel like that's important for us to talk about in the journey. And I have one last question, but for those of you guys who are watching Jack and you got questions for her about her personal journey, how she did it successfully, or how she would do it if she could do it your way, if she has any insights for you, go ahead and put it in the chat. I got one final question. So before we get up out of here, if we can get to it, I totally will. Jack, you down to answer some questions?
yeah, yeah, of course.
All right, dope. Because one thing is for sure, everybody's destination is different. Everybody's reason for leaving is different, and everybody's transition is going to be different. But the more insights that we can share, the better our people will be on this journey ahead. So,
Agreed.
my question to you is entrepreneurship for everybody?
No, not at
Why do
all.
you say that?
Because not everybody has the will or the drive to do it. Going back to what I said about having self discipline, if you don't have self discipline, entrepreneurship is not for you. And although that might be a skill that you can grow, if you're unable to grow it, then it's not for you. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
What do you think about if in your journey you realize entrepreneurship is not for you? How do you think you would take that?
Um, what's the worst thing that can happen? Although I don't think I don't know. I feel like I don't think that'll ever happen just because of the drive I've always had. But I think that the worst thing that can happen to me is that my business doesn't work out and I end up at a six-figure job. That's still better than what most people are doing, and I thank God for the skills that I have because I do have that I if something again if my business doesn't work out, I can just go back to a six-figure job.
But ain't no plan B's, right?
Exactly.
It has to work or it has to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I wanted to ask. I had to ask. I
Yeah.
had
No,
to
I
ask. This
don't
is
think
this
it's
is
for
the
everyone.
yeah. It's I'm starting to realize, that is the popular answer. That is the popular, like entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But what you said that I really appreciate, one is you acknowledging the fact that this is a skill set or this is something that you have to build the propensity and the tolerance for. Like this is a lifestyle that you really do have to build the tolerance for. And then you also being real with yourself and thinking about what's the worst thing that can happen. I think people should ask themselves that question before they leave.
Yeah, because you have to have that level of self-awareness of you've got to play out the worst case scenario in your head. And if that worst case scenario is something you can handle, then fine, great, go for it. But if you cannot genuinely handle that situation, if the worst case scenario happens, then it's not for you and you should probably look into other options. People don't have the
Yes. And
stomach.
facts. So, when you said you have to look into other options, you have to know that entrepreneurship is not the only option, but it is an option. And
Yes.
obviously, me and Jack decided that this is an option that works for us. So, specifically, if you have like entrepreneurial endeavors that you're interested in, then Jack is definitely somebody you want to stay connected to. So, you want to go ahead and hit this little arrow right here. Go ahead and get connected with Jack if you aren't already. I already saw some folks in the comments that were like, I love Jack. I love Jack. So y'all might need to follow me too. I don't know because y'all already
Yeah,
following
yeah,
Jack.
yeah. No, for
But
sure. They definitely
okay,
need to follow
before we
you.
get up out of here, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say no, for sure. They definitely need to follow you, especially my entrepreneur friends. I do have a few. And you share a lot of insight on that transition from corporate to entrepreneurship.
I appreciate that, sis. I do. Hey, Ace, thank you for coming in. You got one more. You got a comment in here. So let me see. Let me see what it says. Listen, I swear I hate the Instagram white text and then the clear background.
Yeah,
But entrepreneurship is hard at AF. It can be tough. I think everyone should make the effort because you might surprise yourself. I appreciate that perspective. Any thoughts on that?
um, I just think it depends. Like, I think that yeah, there's a possibility, but there's also a high possibility that if you're not performing in a certain way, that it's not going to work out for you. Like, there's just certain performance things that you have to have in you, or that you have to already be doing in order for it to work. I feel like that's why some people end up becoming entrepreneurs and then they get really depressed or whatever, or get into these shameful seasons. And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that it wasn't something that you were built for yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yet. So,
Yeah.
you hear my bias. So she's pretty fit. That's a really good comment. Thank you for sharing. And Jack, hey, thank you so much for being on Wisdom Wednesday.
Of course.
Before you
Thank
get
you
up
for
out of
having me.
here, absolutely. Before you get up out of here, let us know how we can support you, and what kind of things we have to look forward to. Your website is about to drop, so just let us know everything.
For sure, for sure. So you can go ahead and follow me at Jac the God. Um I have an upcoming drop that I'm gonna have for my brand. My hustle has purpose. It's all about, inspiration, reminding you guys to believe in your hustle. This next drop that I have, it'll be out next month for February. It's so special to me. I can't wait to share that. That is my prize. Um, so that's coming. I am dropping my website finally for my design work. I have been doing design work and I do design work, but out of respect for my boss, I had been keeping that on the low for a while. So at least my website. So I'm going to be dropping my website for that. And I'm actually going to also be dropping an offer where I'll be teaching people how to, going into one-on-one teaching, where I'm going to be teaching people how to uh, be a designer. So either be a graphic designer or a web designer. And whether that looks like an entrepreneurship journey for you, a side hustle, or whether you're trying to leverage that to get into corporate, I'm going to be teaching that. So that's coming soon as well.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see it. I know a couple people who actually who are interested in that skill set. So can't wait to see you up and running. Can't wait to see everything that you have going on. And I can't wait to grow with you, sis. So again, thank you for
Likewise,
being on the
likewise.
platform.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Peace out, Jack. Bye, guys. Thank y'all for joining us. If you have not been able to check her out, go ahead and here it is. I put it at the bottom. Go ahead and follow her right now. Thank y'all for joining on Wisdom Wednesday. I'm gonna see y'all next time.